I just want to show you, once you have the vehicle up on the lift, where the shock absorber is actually located. As you can see, this is the shock absorber right here. What we're going to do is first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the wheel off the car or truck, obviously. Take the wheel off. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take this cover off inside here. It's like a mud cover to keep any rain or debris from kicking up inside the engine. We're going to remove this to gain access to the bolt up on top here. It's easier doing it this way than to try to do it from the top and then have to go back underneath it. So let me grab some tools and going to get started. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to open up this shield right here and then make a tool to do that. It's like this. You can put it behind there and pop them out like this to get them out. Or if you don't have that tool, what I normally do is just use a pair of needle nose pliers and you just get behind the shield and you just slowly work it out and it pulls right out. You don't want to rip this off because you definitely need it back on there. And it opens it up and it gives us access to the top of the shock absorber. It gives us plenty of room in here to work, so we have nothing in our way. Next thing we want to do is we want to disconnect this bolt and the bottom bolt over here. And the way we're going to do that, if you have an air-powered tool to do it, you use it to do that. Or if you don't have it, and you can do it by hand. You just put the put the air ratchet on, you grab your wrench and you hold the bolt in the back. Let me just show you where that's located. It's down inside here. And you hold that bolt and you take off the nut on this other side. So again, if you have air, you can do it like that. If you don't have air powered, then you can just take it off by hand. I'll give you an idea. Okay, and then you can take your bolt out through the bottom right here. And we're going to need this later on because we're going to reuse it. And on the top one here, same thing. If you have air, you can do it by air. On this particular truck, you're going to take it off by hand because the brake line is right here, and we don't want to take a chance on breaking the line, so we're just going to be a little bit careful, and we'll take that out. You can break it loose, and then you hold the back bolt over here, and you just take the nut out. I want to show you what I mean about that line being real close, the brake line being so close to the nut. You see how that 18 millimeter head is going to hit right into there. Now you could probably get in there with an air gun and shoot it out, but as you know, when these things get older, they get rusty, and you don't want to break something if you don't have to. Alright, so we're just going to take that bolt out, and we're going to pull the shock out of the truck. Okay, what I did is I just bent the bracket up on top there because this bolt, let me get some light up here for you. This bolt up here, this bolt right here was hitting right into the nut on the back over here. Let me get a light up there, I'll show you what I mean. See, the nut right there was hitting right into the top right here, so I just bent the bracket here ever so slightly just to get the bolt past it, right like that. All right, then we take that bolt out, and then the shock is ready to come out. And we're going to replace it with underwood. Very simple. Once the bolts are out of there, the shock comes right out. You just have to walk it out a little bit because of the rust. We just take it out, and then we put our replacement back in the way that we took it out. Once we've got the shock in place, then we'll slide the bolt back in the way it came out, which was from the underneath the back here, back through here, and we just catch the nut. We don't tighten it up yet. We're just going to catch it right now, and then we're going to put the top bolt back through the way we took it out. As you remember, it went in this way here. So we're just going to turn the shock and get it to line up in there. Sometimes it's a little bit rusty, and you need to tap it in just to get it back in where it belongs. And then we're going to put our bolt right through here. And we'll tap it very easily until it comes through. Then we'll put our nut and bolt, nut and flat washer I should say, back on there. And what we're going to do is we'll tighten it up. I'm going to tighten the top one first because that's the way we took it off. Okay, you do have to make that nut very tight because it's actually can't have any movement in there because otherwise you're going to get some squeaking noises later on. All right, and what we're going to do is we're just going to tighten up the bottom one. The bottom we're going to use air on it because it's nice and clean shot in there. We're going to put it on the nut, then we're going to hold the wrench on the other side, and then we'll shoot it in fairly tight. Alright, and last thing we're going to do is we're going to reattach our shield, and you just push it back in. All they are is little push pins, and they just push right back in. That's it. So everything is all back together, just as when we took it apart. Obviously I have the vehicle up in the air, and what I'm going to basically do is we're going to remove the bolt right on the bottom right here, and if you look up top, on the top of the shock, you'll see two bolts right up here that you need to remove too. It's two 13mm bolts on the top of the shock right there. We need to remove those also, and I sprayed everything up with some penetrating oil to make it come out easier. So what I normally do is on the top bolts, I'm extremely careful with those because if they snap, you're going to have a problem. So what I do is on the top ones, I take those out by hand. You will have to just support the differential just a little bit, just to take the weight off of the shock. When you take the lower bolt out, it may stick just a little bit. So now that I have the weight off of the shock itself, we're going to take the bottom bolt out with the air gun, and then we'll take the top ones out by hand. Obviously, if you don't have air power, you can do it with a ratchet also. These are 13/16 bolts through here. Now, if you didn't jack up the differential a little bit, the problem you run into is you wouldn't be able to get this bolt out of here. So by jacking it up just a little bit, you take the weight off of the shock, and you're able to just get the bolt out like that. Now we're going to take out the 2 bolts up top, and those 2 up top, remember I told you we sprayed them already with some penetrating oil just to loosen everything up. And those we're going to take out by hand because we don't want them to snap off up there. And we take the shock out and we get rid of it. What I always do to make things go a little bit easier, just take a second and put a little dab of Never-Seez or any kind of lubricant on the threads of the bolts so that they go back in without a problem. The way you put the bolts back in is you just screw them in by hand. You don't hit it with a ratchet until you're ready to tighten them up all the way. All right, so now we get our I might add that you'll see the top of the shock itself. This is angled. It's tilted a little bit, and if you notice that the shock has this type of an angle on it, so you want to put the shock in like this, because that way this, when it goes up at an angle like that, will be nice and flush or square up top there. All right, so let's screw it in there by hand first, just till you catch it by hand. And then once you catch it by hand, you're going to get the other bolt in also by hand. Once you have them both caught, then you can tighten them up as tight as you can make them. We're going to take off this strap that's on here now that held it up. Just cut it off and throw it away because you don't need it. And then what you're going to do, if you got everything tied up on the top, is you're going to get your bolt in the bottom here and put it back through the same direction that you took it out. Put a nut and bolt on. And if you have your air gun, you use air. If you don't have an air gun, you tighten it up by hand. That's it. You're all done. Now we're going to do the one on the other side, and then we're going to lower it down, and we're all set. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.